Well, okay, I get to go first here. Okay, in my looking back and thinking about things, of course, I've taught on this a couple of times now in this series, and kind of reiterating some of those things that putting anything in a box is our way of controlling what it is that we're putting in a box. So if we put something in our past in a mental box, and we did a whole series called "The Battle is in the Mind," and that really is the same thing. Is because obviously we're not putting anything in a physical box when we're talking about God in a box. We can't do that, so it has to be in our mind, and it has to be something. Why are we putting anything at all in a box? Is mentally is because we need to have control over that. And so I would venture to say that most people that are not, especially not type A personalities or people that have to be in control, for a lack of a better way to put it, don't really put anything in a box. They are not much, but I believe that we start putting things in a box from birth. I think that as our mother and or father or whoever is raising us teaches us things, we start understanding those things from that point of view. And until we reach an age of being able to control things ourselves or understand why the things in front of us are happening that way, and we can say whether or not we want it this way or not, really, this way or not literally means if not, then we're putting something in a box, and it can work positive or negative. Now, I am towards the end of 2 weeks that my daughter and her husband and their 2 children are here. They've been with us for almost 2 weeks, and it's interesting. I'm kind of glad that we're not doing this until now. If we'd have done it 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have had as much of a concept of what I'm fixing to talk about. And in watching my 2.5-year-old and 4-year-old grandsons, like I don't get to watch them hardly at all, except over FaceTime or Marco Polo, those internet apps and stuff. We get to see them quite often. My daughter lets us do that, but you don't really get the understanding. You don't get to see what they do, and you start seeing. For instance, it's interesting to me, the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old are real similar, but the 2-year-old is still developing what he is putting in a box to bring up later, and or how it unfolds as he does his day-to-day life. But yet the 4-year-old is already developing his thought pattern on how he's going to decide how he's going to act or interact with the situation in front of him. The 2-year-old just reacts based on what he has already had in his mental box. Give you an example. my wife produces the War Room Prayer Show every morning, and by the time she starts the show, our family, my daughter and the family are now up, and they've come over and they're sitting around the living room, and they're watching the War Room Prayer Show along with while my wife is producing it. And I walked in the other day to the living room, and it was interesting because they were saying watch Shepherd, and John Craig was singing the Shema. And it was interesting because he cocked his head and knit his eyebrows, and they were saying that the reason he was doing that is because this is not the normal time, as far as he knows it, that the Shema is cantered. And so he has a concept of time. He has a concept of the Shema. He can, our 2-year-old can say the Shema, but yet this was not the time. This was, John Craig now took that out of his box, you see. And so he didn't understand it. He didn't verbally say anything, but you could see on his face, this was not it. This is wrong. We're not doing it according to my box. And so I had already started that process anyway without that example of understanding and watching my grandkids and other people. I'm a watcher. I like to watch other people, and I like to watch other people's personalities and what they do and how they do these things. And this helped solidify to me that from a very early age, it's not just God, but it is God, because both of my grandsons, 2 and 4, already have a concept of God. They already know what this is, but they are slowly putting the characteristics and the aspects of God in specific boxes that they create in their mind, of which they will be able to bring forth later and act upon as they make these decisions. The 4-year-old, Emmett, he understands specific things, and when you say something that isn't right, he will literally say no. He answers, he gets it. But of course, a lot of us adults were a little sarcastic and we make jokes sometimes, and he is at the point now where it's like, no, you can't, no, that's not right, that type of thing. But it's his understanding. It's what he has in his box. It's what is going on. Now with me, as far as my experience, I think the number one thing of having a God in having God in a box for me that has changed is like so many other people. I'm not indifferent than so many other people in that living the messianic lifestyle of putting, when I had God in a Christian box. And this is what God does. This is how he handles things from the Bible. Even though as a Christian, as a Jew, as a Messianic, we're reading exactly the same Bible, we can still, and I still have God in a specific box based on my interpretation of that box. When presented with eating kosher and Sabbath, and that the way I saw things before are not exactly what they should be, but looking at scriptures from an entire point of view instead of individually, then that box now changed over to a different box. Is it wrong to have God in a box? No, it's not wrong to have God in a box. He's not in a box. But in our minds, it's not wrong to have him where we can present him and know him and live based on our understanding of the scriptures. So is it God in a box that we have, or is it the scriptures? Is it the understanding of that we have in a box? And once again, these things are developed very early on. My number one thing of taking God out of the box was switching my lifestyle, switching my understanding of what this all means. I mean, life in general means when it adheres to a religious lifestyle, which is the only thing I know now. I don't know any other way. So there we go. That's my example. That is the way I'm understanding it from this point of view right now. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Joe and Sherry back in. We've lost Sandi. I hope we haven't lost her for the whole show, but hopefully she'll come back in. So I'd be glad to hear any responses to what I just said, Joe.
I liked the fact that you brought the two boys in, because in the scriptures it says that we are his children, and I think that the Father gives us children to show us what he has to deal with.
Right.
And teaches us through our children and our grandchildren. And I believe that we do that from, I would say, from the time we learn, because our parents start teaching us things to put in boxes. That, this is one box that you have to have. And everybody's box is different. My mom's box of the way she taught me was totally different from the American way. And I was a strange creature growing up with the boxes I had. So I believe that we start out doing that as children, and we learn from our parents.
Very good. Sherry, you're muted. Sherry, you're muted.
Yes, I like how you brought in the boys and your observation, and Sarah and Cameron's observation of them also realizing what's going on and able to explain, this in his little mind. Well, wait a minute, this isn't what I see, so he broadened his thinking, and our early childhood impressions really affect us, all of our lives, negative or positive. And that's a very positive reinforcement that he has there. The kids are getting, they're seeing the positive in their parents and in their grandparents and everything. So it's a really good example.
Thanks. Sandi, you're back with us. Can you hear?
Yeah, I was only gone for 2 minutes, maybe.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. The last thing I was talking about right after you'd left was that my experience, my main experience of, God in a box was the Christian way that I looked at things, and then understanding that really wasn't the full view. So I took God out of that box and put him in the Messianic box. But the Messianic box is a more open box. It's a more freer box. It may not be a box at all, but more of an actual understanding, which does free whatever we put into a box. That was my example.
That's true. Well, I did hear the first part of that, but I wanted to say, when you were telling the story about the kids, I love that you brought that out, because I think it's probably going to be different than any of the rest of us. But it made me think, as a children's pastor, working with kids every week, and a youth pastor, I was like, how can I challenge them now to broaden their horizon of how Yahweh moves, how he heals, how we understand the word. And so to talk about that, it really blessed me to hear those testimonies and how you brought it right into our discussion, because we do have to realize it starts pretty much at the beginning of our understanding.
Right.
And we react just like those kids when we're challenged. Like,
Sure.
like And so I thank you, Mark. That was really, really good.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.